Cuban embargo, speaking with Richard Curtis this morning on KGNU. It's 12 minutes before 9 o'clock. Expect high temperatures between 30 and 30. Crossing borders both to Mexico and to Canada, and going on to Cuba with humanitarian aid in defiance of the U.S. blockade against that island nation. Boulder resident Gary Erbb was part of the 7th Friendshipment. He spoke with KGNU's Richard Curtis. He begins by talking about some of the background surrounding the U.S. government's response to the Friendshipments.
Since the 6th Friendshipment, the United States government has been threatening Pastors for Peace with a grand jury investigation, and they basically subpoenaed all records that had to do with the 4th, 5th, and 5th Friendshipments. It's the intimidation tactic, but also it was designed to bankrupt the organization, which has been raising money in order to fight these subpoenas. That was coming to a head because the grand jury was about to expire. So basically, it was either hand down an indictment or put it off for a long time. The government didn't do this, and when the main caravan was about to cross the Peace Bridge in Buffalo, New York, they were simply told that, well, we decide what you're carrying is humanitarian aid, so go ahead and cross the bridge.
And we should let listeners know that the caravan takes two routes. A northern route and a southern route through New York.
This one did. It was the first time there were two crossings. The other one was at San Diego, and that's the one I was on.
And what happened there?
Well, we didn't, since our crossing was 2 days after the crossing in Buffalo. We didn't expect any trouble from the Treasury Department, which is quite a change. The last time there was an attempt to cross at San Diego, actually there were two attempted crossing within a few months of each other. People were tackled, people were beaten up, the aid was torn out of their hands, and about a dozen people were placed under arrest. And that was what's led to the 94-day hunger strike that eventually forced the government to cave in on this.
And that was last year.
Yeah, that was almost 2 years ago. So this is the first Friendshipment in a little while. So this is basically our take on is the government did not want another hunger strike, did not want any more attention called to this issue, and decided that it better let us go free. But in San Diego, there was something else. You might have heard of Alpha 66. This was a terrorist organization that was recruited from the veterans of the Bay and Pigs invasion. They're the people who blew up the airliner that had the Cuban fencing team on it. They're the people who were basically running boats across the Straits of Florida, burning crops, putting biologic contaminants in drinking water supply, shooting people. They're the people who machine gunned the tourist hotels recently. Well, they have a chapter in California. During the hunger strike, when they were trying to cross the computers, they actually, about 20 of them were demonstrating across the street from where people were fasting. And this time, when we arrived, they held a little demonstration at that same site, full battle dress, saying that they were a commando military organization and they were determined to stop Pastors for Peace for crossing. They actually put out newspaper ads to that effect. They burst into a press conference and actually threatened the Episcopalian minister that was giving us hospitality. They phoned in threats to all the churches that were giving us hospitality in San Diego. They demonstrated outside the Episcopalian church where first arrived and actually beat up one of our people. And there was an incident on the day that we did cross the border.
And what was that?
Well, our staging area was a Catholic church, just a short distance from the San Isidro crossing. When we arrived there, so were they. There were about 10 of them, yelling curses at us, and we simply got in our...
There were how many of you? How many people caravannistas?
Oh, there were about 150 of us.
Lots of people.
Mm-hmm, and I think about... a total of about 10 vehicles. We lost a number of our vehicles. And so we simply, basically, we drove into that parking lot and drove out while they shouted curses at us and pelted us with eggs. But then a number of them got into two cars and pursued us. They pursued the lead vehicle, which had the Reverend Lucius Walker, who was the head of Pastors for Peace, in it, and 3 women staff members. When that car stopped at a stop sign, they pulled alongside, got out, and attacked the car. At that point, the driver in the second vehicle, was also an IFCO staffer, got out and basically pulled off one that was beating on the car. Lucius Walker got out because he was afraid that was going to be a fight. I should back up a bit. We decided a couple of days before this that the strategy of Alpha 66 was to provoke some sort of a brawl, because that would take the attention away from the United States government policy toward Cuba, which is basically to starve the island into submission. And so we decided that if we fought, we lost. If we didn't fight, then we'd win. We would simply claim the victory. And so basically Lucius got out in order to keep this from getting into a fight. And a number of us had been selected as peacekeepers to prevent, basically to separate them and prevent any sort of brawl. We got out of our vehicles. There was, we were in a red van that was third in line. We linked arms, we formed a perimeter, we separated them, went eyeball to eyeball for a few minutes. Then we got back into our cars and we proceeded. They pursued us on the freeway, and there was a car fight on that freeway that looked like something out of Cops and Robbers TV movie. They tried to get, basically tried to force Lucius Walker's car off the road. They tried to get in front and behind it and box it in. Us and the 2 vehicles had the peacekeepers in it, our red van and the Trans Am, prevented this. The van got rammed 3 times, one from the right side, 3 times from the left, and actually wrecked the steering on the vehicle. That had to be left behind. But we made it, and as soon as we were within inside of the border, the battle ended because we were in the sight of a large force of police that were there to separate us. We were directed off into a parking lot, and the Alpha 66 cars were directed off to the other side of the road so that the medium separated us. The medium was occupied by riot police.
And these are American police or Mexican police?
These are the San Diego police and the California Highway Patrol.
Now, we're running out of time here real quick, but what can you tell us about what you've seen in Cuba over the years? How are things today?
Things are definitely improving. Basically, you don't have, you no longer have scheduled outages of utilities, although sometimes, occasionally it does happen. But as a rule, the lights stay on, the water keeps running. Bus transportation is regular and more frequent than it was before. Basically, conditions are better. The economy is growing at a rate of about 2.5% a year. It's not skyrocketing, but it is recovery. Things are definitely improving, but it's still a very grave problem, and there's still a long way to go.
Boulder resident Gary Erbb discussing the most recent U.S.-Cuba friendshipment, some confrontation with Alpha 66, and conditions in Cuba. He spoke with KGNU's Richard Curtis. 8:27 in the morning, mostly sunny and warm today with